Sorry about that. The camera dropped. Anyway, where was I? I was in the bathrooms with Jack. Let's move around a little. These are kind of random samplings of what Kubrick's breadcrumbs look like. This particular shot is from The Shining, and then this gentleman has a glass of whiskey, and he says, "Great party, isn't it?" Well, in this case over here, we have a fossilized fish. And in one of its eye sockets, we have a fisheye lens that's been inserted. So this is another fisheye clue. The other sync with this is Kubrick's fisheye lenses and his entire lens collection went on display in a museum, and so all the lenses are inside little glass cases, just like this in the Kubrick Museum. So it's pretty clever. And he's drinking whiskey, which is Jack Daniels was founded by moonshiners. So where he's drinking moonshine, moonshots, we all shine on, the shining, shiny flat. All right, here we go. This is more in reference to the Minotaur allegory. Here we have Slim Pickens, who was a real matador, a bullfighter in real life before he got into rodeos, and then he ended up getting into acting. But he was a real matador who slayed bulls. So it's a matador clue. And then we have, here's a real horse head. And this shows you that the skull that Moonwatcher crushes is a horse head skull, not a tapir. Here's another, it's another repeat, but it's a different shot from the movie. And this is, once again, the Minotaur allegory. So we just had the matador there with Slim Pickens. Here's the Minotaur. But he's added the Cyclops eye in the middle. So we have Odysseus and the Cyclops and the Minotaur and Dave Bowman, and we've got the horns here. So it's really clever. This is another good one. We have a carpet that is a 1D plane, but it's colored to make it look like a 3D representation of three cubes. So it's a 1D surface that looks like 3D. This is exactly what we see in the Apollo backgrounds. It's a 1D surface made to look like 3D. But the problem with this representation is that you never see real parallax changes. So it's very clever flooring that he uses, and Danny gets the ball rolled to him. And of course, he's wearing the Apollo sweater. Let's not forget that. Here's another reference to ballistics and Coriolis. This is something Gomer Pyle excels in. He's a very good shot. Here, this is very good. Okay, so room 237. The Apollo missions, you had 2 teams, primary and secondary. 3 men per team, 7 missions for 237. So if there's 2 teams and there's 3 men per mission and there's 7 missions, that would be 21 men, and we have 7 by 3. We also have one of the missions here is in shadow. This would be Apollo 13. They failed to land, but all the other ones landed. So you have 11, 12, 13, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's all your Apollo missions. We also have the candles are lined up just as you would line them up in front screen projection, so the shadow of one hides the next. And of course, Jack's picture is right in the center, which is very clever because no matter what way you count it, it's the 11th picture, Apollo 11. You have 7 across, 8, 9, 10, 11. Or if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's always 11, no matter which way you count it. So it's a very clever Kubrickian thing. Here we have the picture of the matador and the bull in the background. So this is another Minotaur, matador, bull reference. Then we have Danny, who walks backwards in his own footsteps. This is a reference to Theseus and his magic thread. Theseus went into the labyrinth, this is what Danny's in, is a labyrinth. And as he goes in the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur, he leaves a magic thread behind him so he can find his way out. So after he slays the Minotaur, he walks through his own footsteps out of the maze. And this is exactly what Danny's using. He's not using a thread here, he's using his footsteps. But the allegory is very clear here, what we're talking about. This is the maze, the Minotaur, the magic thread. 1-point perspective. This is brilliant. Kubrick uses this in every movie he does. It uses it so much, in fact, that there's a video online If you do a search for Kubrick one-point perspective, you will find it. It's an amazing video. They've done a compilation of all his one-point perspective shots, which is there's hundreds of them, but they couple them all together, and it's amazing. So this is just one of them, him down a hallway. It shows you the one-point perspective. Your sight is not unlimited on a flat plane. We all saw the moon landings. I was 5 years old, and I actually had my own NASA space helmet. It was like this plastic helmet with the visor would come down. I loved it. It was awesome. But, looking back on it now, I see this and, this is so freaking hokey here. It's a joke. In 1969, it was a joke, but now it's really a joke. And it's always landed on moon. They never say the moon. I don't know if you noticed that. It's kind of like I think it's a legal way out of saying you landed on the moon. You just said you landed on moon. Here's one-point perspective. I think we're all, if you know the flat earth theory, you have to be, this is the whole ships disappearing on the horizon thing. It's a crock. It's a trick of perspective and the way your eyes work. Here we have Spartacus. Once again, we have the bathroom scene. This is Tony Curtis. This is Jamie Lee Curtis's father. And, we have Laurence Olivier here. This is clever. There's numerous videos online that talk about if you're in a jet plane flying at 500 miles an hour, you would need to continuously nose down the plane or you would end up gaining altitude, which you wouldn't want to do. But we never see this in real life. But we do see this when we watch Doctor Strangelove. The B-52 seems to be going downhill the whole time. So do you think Kubrick didn't notice the B-52 looked like it was going downhill? I don't think you're paying attention if you think that. This is at about, I don't know, what is that? Like an 8-degree angle, it's nose down. We see this over and over in the shot where they show the plane flying to the North Pole. By the way, when this was filmed, Kubrick actually took a twin-engine plane up to the North Pole to get these backgrounds that he used to make this fakery here with the B-52. And as he was flying around in the North Pole, he was actually forced down by U.S. Air Force fighter jets, and they were forced to land on the ice, which is a dangerous thing to do. Anyway, they were forced down, and the plane was searched, and they were told to get the hell out of there, and you did not to be flying around the North Pole. And apparently they were told there was some kind of secret base they were not allowed to see. So, the story is true. Is the reason they were shooed away from the North Pole true? Who knows? Here's the Minotaur reflection again. This time we have the full Cyclops eye in the center. We have the two man. It's half man, half bear, half Minotaur. We have the balls. There's always a ball. The redhead had a red ball in her mouth. The writer gets an orange ball. You've got Clockwork Orange. You've got Snowball, 8-ball. They're all different balls. You've got number 42, Jackie Robinson, the first black professional baseball player. You have Spartacus. You have Woody Strode, the first black professional football player. He's giving you ball players. Here's Jack in the bathroom. This is the shot where the camera fell out on the end of the other video. This is Jack in the red bathroom. So remember earlier I said redheads are a clue set? Well, you're in the redhead here, okay? And this particular redhead is based off the Biltmore, Arizona hotel, which has a strange history. But anyway, it was a Frank Lloyd Wright hotel in Arizona, and JFK would frequent it with Jackie, and there's pictures of JFK on the walls at the Biltmore. And so he's giving a little nod to the Biltmore, Frank Lloyd Wright, and redheads. And of course, this is a bizarre, he tells Jack that you've always been the caretaker. I should know. I've always been here. We're not alone in the hotel. There are other people in the hotel with us, and we are not at the top of the food chain. We are the caretakers, sort of like the hired hands, the shoeshine boys is what we are. If there's some moon fakery things that need to happen, then we'll do it because they're not going to be bothered with something so lowly. Here's the magic circle game that is in Eyes Wide Shut that we see in the store. We have all the zodiac signs, and it's a circle, and it's magic. So that's where you live, on a magic circle. Oh, how did that get in there? What is that? Is that a fake NASA picture? I don't know. Oh, yes, here we go. Danny and this Apollo 11 hand knitted Apollo sweater. Any kind of handmade anything in a Kubrick movie will be a clue. And this is a very good example of one. And clearly, this is a hand knitted Apollo sweater. You can't tell from the shot, but there's 7 stars on it, one for each of the missions. And, it's very clever. And it fits right into the knitting. We are weaving together Jungian threads in this allegory. And, Danny is Theseus, and he's laying the magic threads where we need to follow them. And this one particular thread got knitted into a sweater, a handmade sweater. And in the scene where Danny goes in, after he goes into room 237, we see the collar of the sweater torn and a thread hanging out. So it's very clever. And, once again, we have the 1D carpet that's colored to look like a 3D object, which is very clever. This is the difference between a 3D simulation and real 3D parallax. And of course, we have Apollo and his laurel crown right here. And, we see that same laurel crown on the UN map. So it's all crazy. But, here's another one. You've got 8 segments, 4 each. That's 32. And then you've got the bullseye. Because this is a one-eyed Jack right here. It's only got one bullseye. Just like the moon. We only see one face of the moon ever. We never see the dark side of the moon. So if we only see one face of the moon, we only see one eye from the moon. So it's a one-eyed Jack. Then you have Kubrick's movies, One-Eyed Jack. Then you've got the Shining, where Jack busts through the door and sticks his head through, and he looks like the Jack